Welcome to Running in the 70s, where we interview, meet, and get to know athletes of all kind who were running in the 70s. I'm your host, Matthew Kleinowski. Today on the podcast, we're in South Carolina with a New Jersey native, someone who started running in the 70s. Run several marathons, been a part of running since then in terms of being a self-proclaimed running geek. He's been to a lot of places, known a lot of people, worked with one of the largest running clubs in the world. Has a lot of great photos and a lot of great stories. Welcome today on the podcast, Steve Starr. Hi, Steve.
Hey, Matt. Good to meet you.
Steve, let's tell everybody your origin story getting involved with running. Where, when, and how did you get your first running or your first race?
I started running in June of 77. I remember that because I was in summer school for high school. I got inspired by three things: Bruce Jenner in the Olympics, Bill Rogers winning the New York City Marathon in 76, and the movie Rocky. I started running in summer school in 77, and I'd get to school early and do a few laps around the high school. That was June of 77. A few months later, I got hit by a car on a bike the same day that Elvis died. So that August 16th, 77. So
Yeah, that makes them very memorable. Where exactly, what school and what city was that in?
that was Hackensack, New Jersey.
Okay.
So about 8 miles outside of New York City.
So the running boom, the wave was coming or in full wave form then taking over America. What was it about the Olympics and Bruce Jenner that got you in? Had you watched previous Olympics? Why was it different then?
I remember watching 72. I remember the Winter Olympics from 72 more than the Summer Olympics for some reason. But then watching the 76 Olympics, watching the marathon with Sierpinski beating each other on drugs, and then seeing Bruce Jenner, for some reason, it was like, I thought this looks cool. I think I set up a little high jump bar in my backyard and tried to break my neck a few times. And I saw the headlines in the New York Daily News with pictures of Bill Rogers winning New York that October. And I thought, that looks cool. I can do that. That looks easy. So
Now, how'd your recovery go from that accident?
I had a bad whiplash and a concussion. I probably felt a lot better 2 months later, whatever it was. The neck was messed up more than anything else. I had physical therapy, but maybe a couple of months. Then I would say sometime in later 77, I got my first pair of real running shoes, Adidas SL 76s, obviously, hard as rocks. I remember going out to run in them and my calves cramped up horribly because there was no cushioning. So that was that. And I ran through the fall and winter of 77 to 78. And in April of 78, the YMCA in Hackensack had a race, 2.5 miles and 5 miles. And I did the 2.5 miles. I had never run in high school on a team, so I had no idea what I was doing. I went to, what was the name? There was a store on Main Street in Hackensack. I got a pair of blue shorts, and it started at the YMCA on Main Street in Hackensack, New Jersey. April 9th, 78. I ran 18:24, I think, for 2.5 miles. Nothing incredible.
How'd you feel when you finished that?
I don't remember, but so I was 16 still. So I probably felt fine. I thought it was cool because here I am doing what Bill Rogers does.
Yeah. What was it like when you were running? You trained and ran most days?
I was probably running 4 to 5 times a week. And I don't think I was doing more than maybe 4 miles.
You had been doing laps before. Were you out running on roads?
Oh, yeah. I was running on the roads. By that time, I had moved to Hasbrook Heights, New Jersey, which is right next to Hackensack. And I'd be running the roads around there. I'd be doing a lot of running at night, which for some reason I would never do today. I've turned chicken. But back then, when you're that age, you're invincible.
I'm in the same era. And back then, some of the drivers in cars thought it was funny or weird. Did you get reactions when you were out running by yourself?
Not while I was running by myself. I remember one incident in about 82 or 83, a few years later. I was running with my girlfriend at the time, and a car full of football players, I imagine, heckled me, and I gave them the finger. And 10 seconds later, they're coming back to basically my butt. which they kicked me a few times, but that was it. So that's the only time I think I was ever hassled. So that was pretty
That's great.
traumatic, but yeah, that sucked.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. What happened in your view of running and the interest that you took as a fan
Yeah.
after 76? How did that develop?
Like I said, my biggest hero was Bill Rogers from day one, him winning New York City Marathon and then following him winning Boston, doing things like that. I had a friend's mother who was actually a runner, and she had some of the first issues of Running Times magazine. I borrowed them from her. I'd read the issues that she gave me. I think I kept one, and I got into following it. Then 1978, he won Boston again. I don't remember if I was watching it or listening to it on the radio, but go forward to 1979. This is how big it was back then. WINS, a news channel in New York City, they were giving updates on the Boston Marathon like every 20 minutes. And that's a news
Wow.
channel in New York City. So here I am in my bedroom listening to the radio, hearing updates about the Boston Marathon with Bill Rogers running.
When did you watch the marathon in person?
The first time I went to watch a marathon was Boston 81. I went up with a friend who I knew from New York City, Howard Abrams. I'm friends with him on Facebook now. He was young. I was 20. I think he was like 13, but we were both running geeks. I met him working at the New York City Roadrunners Club. He was a volunteer. At that time, I was a volunteer. So we became friends. Big age difference, but he was a cool kid. I went up to Boston with him and his father, Lee, and we were about 50 yards from the finish line, right in front of the crew. And I had my camera. I didn't get any pictures of Sitka or Virgin, but I got a picture of Bill coming through. I got a picture of Pat Canilano coming through. That was the first time I watched a marathon in person, I believe.
What'd you do with your photos? So they're just personal use?
They were just personal use at that time. I have another story about that down the road a bit. But at the time, it was just personal use. Yeah.
How did you get involved with the New York Road Runners Club? You volunteered at first, and what was the trajectory of that?
I volunteered with them starting in, I'm going to say early summer of 1980, maybe the spring of 80. I don't recall how I got involved. I ran my first race with them ever in December 78. I ran a 10-miler at Central Park. I guess I talked my way into coming to the city to volunteer. I don't remember the exact logistics, but yeah, they were at the West Side YMCA at that time on 63rd Street. I was going in to help out, to help Joe Kleinerman with race registration. So he was the old guy at the club. And I'd head in there, spend the day there doing entry forms, things like that. I'll never forget one time I'm at the club and it got really late and I didn't feel like taking the bus home. So I slept in Fred LeBeau's office and I woke up in the middle of the night and I was covered in roaches.
Oh, man.
I will never forget that. There were roaches everywhere. So
This is
yeah,
great. Let me take you back to that race in Central Park. I think a couple years earlier, they hosted the national championship 50 miler, maybe
yeah,
75, 76
that was right
there.
before my time. Yeah.
Yeah. But what do you remember about the race in Central Park? Were there numbers? How many people?
Oh, yeah.
Were there drink stops? Any of that going on?
It was fucking cold. It was really cold. I think I was one of the few people in shorts. Everybody else is in long johns with shorts over them or sweatpants. And I'm out there in shorts in my gray UCLA t-shirt and short New Balance shorts. And I froze my ass off. I don't remember if there were water stops because it was so cold. It
Yeah.
was a 6-mile loop and a 4-mile loop around Central Park. And I ran hard, whatever that means. I ran 1:15:21. I remember some of my race times for some reason.
Wow. Yeah. Now, any idea about the pack size approximate?
I'm going to say it might have been maybe about 100 people, if that. Fairly small, but by that time standards, it's probably big.
And certificates, medals, anything given out?
They gave out trophies. They had a ceremony at the Church of the Heavenly Rest on the corner of Fifth Avenue and 90th Street. I remember that. My mother came with me. My girlfriend came with me. I went in with my mother. Obviously, I wasn't driving at that time. And they had it at the Church of the Heavenly Rest right there by Central Park. I remember being in pain from certain parts being really cold. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it had hot chocolate. They gave the awards to the top people, like maybe even age group. I don't remember exactly. It was a long time ago.
When you volunteered in the New
Yeah.
York Roadrunners Club,
Yeah.
did you meet Fred LeBeau?
Yeah. Yeah. I saw him all the time. Yeah. Fred LeBeau, Joe Kleinerman, like I said, I met a lot of people there. And in the spring of 81, they moved to the big club on 89th Street. They had a 5-story building there, about 30 feet wide. It was very small. And they hired me. I was giving like $200 a week, which was nice then. I was one of the people painting the walls in the new club. I was there for about a year, I would say. Go back to 1980. I'm working marathon registration with Alice Schneider. She ran the marathon registration. We're in an office on Broadway somewhere. We're sitting there with all the trays full of applications for the marathon. And somebody picks one up and says, "Look at this." It was Alberto Salazar's entry form with his predicted time of 2:10. And we all got a really good laugh out of that until he ran 2:09:41. So, yeah, that was pretty cool. Like I said, in the spring of 81, they moved to the club on 89th Street. I was there as an employee for maybe a little less than a year. I worked with Clay Smith, Debbie Green, Alan Steinfeld, who was eventually the technical director for the marathon. The first time I broke 20 minutes for a 5K, we went out to Flushing Meadow and he offered to pace me and great stuff. So I went out there with him and ran 1935 for a 5K. And that was so cool. I thought I was it. I was all that shit.
What did you figure out about the shoes? Did you get any shoes with padding? Did you get any injuries through this time
Oh, yeah.
yourself?
I moved on from the Adidas that was rock hard. I got the Nike LD 1000 with the super wide flare, and they were awful. I think I returned them. I got the Nike LDV. That was a great shoe. I ran the 10 miler in the Nike LDV. That was a good shoe. And go to 1980. I was in the LDV and then the Daybreak, Nike Daybreak. I was a Nike fanatic. I eventually got the Nike Columbia, which is a heavy polyurethane midsole. Loved them to death. Great shoe. The original Nike Mariah, I loved. I tried 200 different Nikes over the years. But yeah,
Whoa. Who were you buying them from in New York?
at the
Jersey.
athletic, I worked at an Athletic Addict for a while. Athletic Addict running store. I got some pairs through them. There was a outdoor store called Herman's. Do you remember that? That was like, yeah, I got some shoes through them. I got my first pair of Nike Tailwinds right when they came out in January of 79. That was it because they had the air soles. That was it. I liked them, but yeah.
Let me ask you about the early days of, for example, taking the registrations for the marathons. What was the composure, attitude, and interaction with the athletes, both at elite and non-elite in that? Was it hectic? What was it like?
At the time, I was mostly in the office doing it. So I didn't really have a lot of interaction at that time with the athletes. Once in a while, I would work a registration table downstairs in the library of the club, just giving out numbers of t-shirts. But other than that, I didn't have a lot of connection with the elites at that time. Yeah.
What about your chance to do photography when you were? Did that get you some good position to take more photos in the New York
Not at that
races?
time. I wasn't that into it at that time. Doing it later on, you get back into about 2005. I was shooting a lot of road races professionally. I'd go to the race directors, say, "Can I shoot your race?" And they had a website. I was selling the pictures to people. Obviously, races that didn't have an official photographer. So I did that for maybe 30 or 40 races, maybe, and didn't make a lot of money, but it was fun.
Well, who are some of the runners that people recognize, either elite or names that you personally did meet or photograph?
I'll tell you, I worked back in the early 80s, there was a store called Consumer Distributors. It was like a showroom. You would go in, pick stuff out in the catalog or in the thing, and employees would go in the back in the warehouse, get it, and bring it to the customer. One day, this couple comes in tracksuits, and I figured they were runners. I said to the wife, "Are you guys runners?" And she says, "Yeah, my husband's a marathoner." And I'm like, "Oh, what's his best time?" And she says, 2:10. I'm like, "Wait a minute. Who is this guy?" I said, "Where do you run 2:10?" And it was actually Rob DiCostella, who had run it 2:10 at Fukuoka the year before. So I met him there, and then flash forward to the Diet Pepsi Championships at Purchase, New York in 81. He was here on a tour to run 3 races. He ran a 15K in Westchester County, New York. He ran the Maple Leaf Half Marathon in Vermont, and then he ran the Pepsi Championships. And I saw him there with his wife, Gayleen, and she's got a new camera, ironically. So I'm showing his wife how to work her camera. Small world. And I ended up getting on the press truck, which I did a few times somehow, and I got some good pictures of the race. Yeah, so I ran into people here and there. It's like, how did I get into this position? Yeah, it was cool.
You do have a pretty great memory for your own races, the
I
dates,
do.
the times you ran,
Yeah.
everything. What about your fandom and following of the world? It seems like you were following the elite athletes and the Olympics going forward.
Yeah, pretty much. Like I said, I've been running and doing races since 1977, but I've always been intrigued by the elites. You know, I will wait until 3 o'clock in the morning to watch the Berlin Marathon or the Tokyo Marathon or whatever. Yeah. And people say you're obsessed. I always say, if somebody watches a football game every Sunday for 15 weeks, are they obsessed? No. If somebody watches a baseball game twice a week for the season, are they obsessed? No. So I watch every marathon I can find on Peacock or any place on YouTube. Yeah. By most
Well,
normal people
what's
standards, I'm obsessed.
Yeah, okay. You have a great perspective then. So it's 47 years about.
Basically, yeah.
Let's talk about how things changed in the sport. I know it'll be hard to put this stuff into specifics, but the ideas of drugs, the ideas of money in the sport, how did you see that changing? Because with the proper awards, with anything discussed about under the table
Yeah.
and drug cheating and all that, how did you see that pass over time?
I would say not long after I started running, I remember reading about and hearing about the East Germans. So that was out there at that time as far as drugs go, but nobody imagined that every other country would have dab dopers. It just wasn't a thing. And at the time, there was money under the table, which I wasn't that familiar with at the time, but come through about 1983, and there were articles about it. The New York Times, Fred LeBeau wrote a book, Inside the World of Big Time Marathoning. That was the name of it. And he talked about the money under the table a bit. In 1981, Bill Rogers was supposed to run the New York City Marathon, and like he pulled out of it the next day. He had a sponsor who wanted him to wear shorts with the logo on the front and the back, and over money, he didn't run the next day.
Wow.
So there was things going on at the time. I remember the Cascade Runoff in 1981. That was the first big money race with Professional Road Runners Association. Don Cardong and other people up there, they started it. And that was the first race with official prize money. So I remember that. The biggest difference I see then and now is that everybody wanted to kill themselves for a PR. You would go to a race and people running, whether it was 37 minutes or 52 minutes, they'd come across the finish line exhausted. And now they come across the finish line and they're smiling and they're waving and looking for a medal that's 10 inches around. People don't care about, they do it. They don't care about doing it well. That's the biggest difference I see now, you know?
Yeah, and sometimes photo op and social media may have
Yeah.
had a big impact on this.
Yeah. And back then it's like people did 2 marathons a year, 2 or 3. Now you have people doing 52 marathons a year. Like back then it was respected. You ran hard. You didn't have super shoes, but you ran hard and then you were beat up for a while. Then you got back into it months later. So it's like the whole mentality now has changed with recreational runners, which I can't relate to.
Do you remember the budget or the run fees there when you were involved with the Roadrunner
Back
12
then,
races and how that's spiked? And
okay,
why? Why did it go up?
I'll tell you, the first year I entered New York, I think was 79. I didn't run it that year. I entered it. I thought I'd be able to do it. I just never got to it, training wise or whatever. I recall the entry fee was $15 or $20 for the New York City Marathon. I
Yeah.
think maybe when I ran it the first time in 1980, it might have been 20 or 25. So it's gone up so much. I think it's a lot of things. I think it's the insurance cost. I think the clubs like New York City Roadrunners, they're paying the city a lot of money to do it. I think partially it's a little bit of greed. You have people at the top of this, like the Roadrunners Club, I'm more familiar with. Mary Wittenberg, who was the director for a long time, from what I recall, she was bringing in about $1 million a year. She was making big money. I might be off by a little bit, but she was making big money.
Mhm,
So it's turned from a Roadrunners Club to a corporation.
mhm.
So
Proper profit making business. Yeah.
yeah,
What have you've seen the recent article about the bridge fee discussion? What do you think about that? Maybe you can
I think it's
describe it.
BS because Marathon brings in so many millions of dollars into the city. Why are they going to worry about shutting the bridge for 5 hours or whatever it is? It's stupid. It's petty. And they're saying they lose a lot of money doing that. The city is bringing in $18 million in tourist money every year. So why are you worried about losing a day's worth of tolls? It's ridiculous. Yeah,
Steve, you don't have any problem having and expressing your opinions. So
not one bit.
let's jump to today now. There's been an increasing number just in the past year of doping violations, of
Yeah.
drug avoidance, of high tech shoes. What do you think about what's gone on to now in the sport?
In terms of drugs, I'm at the point where I'm basically watching the marathons. I'm seeing these guys running 203 or 204. I'm at the point where almost thinking I'm watching professional wrestling. But if there's 20 guys in the lead pack going at 204 pace, I'm thinking, okay, probably 13 of them are doping. I'm a huge Elliot Kipchoge fan. I love Elliot Kipchoge. At this point, I will probably watch the Olympic marathon this year. Every time I watch a race, I wonder how many of these guys are doping at this point because it's so extensive now. Kenya almost got banned last year. A report came out very recently that they had so many dopers, so many failed tests, people missing tests. They came very close to being kicked out by the World Athletics.
Yeah,
It's sad.
similar what happened to Russia as a national ban, that would be
Yeah.
enormous. Yeah.
Yeah. The shoe thing, what things change. You want to go back to have people running the shoes that Clarence DeMar ran in to make it pure. And where's the cutoff point? Yeah, those shoes, you have the Asics, you have the Tiger shoes from the 70s, then you've got things like the American Eagle and the Mariah in the 80s. Where do you say it's an unfair advantage? Yeah, the shoes help a lot now. You're recovering a lot faster, but things move on. And you can't compare somebody running 202 now with somebody running 211 50 years ago.
Yeah.
It's a different sport. I don't know.
Let me ask how you perceived it for your own racing
Yeah.
from the 70s with 100 people paying
Yeah.
$15. How did you adapt to it over time with races getting bigger, getting more expensive? You're in different parts of the
Yeah.
country.
Back then, it grew slowly. I think the first year I ran New York City, I've actually got hold on one sec. I've got my finishing
Okay.
certificate, for my first marathon on the wall. Hold on.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. Look
Yeah.
at
It's
that.
1980 New York City, if you can see it.
Yeah. Oh, that's
Yeah.
brilliant.
Yeah. So that year, there were 7,700 runners in the New York City Marathon, which was huge back then. Yeah. That many runners in 1980, that was cool. But then you move ahead to 50,000 runners with different waves and whatever. I have no desire, none. It's a huge parade. It's not a race. Even though I'm not racing, I'm not going to beat anybody. I don't want to beat a crowd for 5 hours and go in different waves. And it's not my thing anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah. My last marathon was Philadelphia in 2001. It might have been maybe 5 or 6,000 runners. I forget, but that was cool. 50,000 people in New York or Chicago, no interest.
What else have you done with collecting information, communicating with people, taking photos in the end since then?
I've connected with a lot of people on Facebook, people that were my heroes back then, Benji Durden, Ron Tabb, Jack Welch, the writer, who was an awesome person. I've hung out with him a few times. Jack is just epic. Uh, he gave me this bracelet at the Olympic trials.
Ah,
It says, become your own hero. And I have not taken it off since the first week of February. And I told him that a few days ago, and he was like so honored. So he's a great guy. He's 76. I wish I knew him a lot longer than I have.
yeah.
I used to run in Bloomfield, New Jersey. There was the Sunset Classic put on by Tom Fleming. He had the running store right there in Bloomfield. I used to go to Tom's store all the time. And I don't want to say I talked to him for hours. You listen to Tom for hours.
Nice.
You get him on a topic and he would just gab. It was cool. And then around 2007 or 2009, I went down to photograph the race, and Bill Rogers had run the race and he's signing autographs after the race. We all head to a bar near where the starting line was. I find myself at a table with Tom Fleming, Bill Rogers, and I think his girlfriend. I'm sharing nachos with Bill Rogers.
Nice.
I'm like, holy shit, this is surreal.
Yeah.
This is my hero. And we're
Well,
dipping in the same dish with sour cream.
yeah. So what's he like when he's eating chips?
He's fine. He's a very cool guy. He's exactly how you perceive him. Very mellow, very peppy. Have you met him before?
I haven't.
Okay. He's awesome. He's great. The first time I met him was at the Pepsi Championships in 1979. I went up to purchase, and so after the race, signing autographs under a tent. I have a picture of that somewhere. But it was like, oh my God, I'm like within 2 feet of Bill Rogers. It was like hero worship. Yeah.
Well, one guy that I did meet and got to
Yeah.
know a little bit in Cairo, Egypt, where I was living when
Yeah.
Fred LeBeau came over as a
Yeah.
consultant for the marathon they were trying to do there. How was your contact with the Roadrunner Club after you left there? Were you still in touch?
Not too much. No, I would go in occasionally to run a race here and there. I don't recall why I even left. I think it was the commute because I lived in Hackensack and Paramus at the time in New Jersey, and it was taking the bus over there, then taking the train downtown. I think I actually got a real job at some point, so I stopped volunteering there or working there. I would just go into to run races and see a few people that I knew at the time, like other runners that I became friends with or people at the club. I would just go in and say hi, but that was it. Then I just drifted away from it.
What was the farthest you traveled to be in a race?
Jacksonville, Florida. I
Mhm.
did the river run twice in the late 80s.
Definitely. That was the last race I ran. It was 2004 or 2005. I lived in Ponte Vedra Beach for a short time
Okay.
after coming back from overseas, and it's a great race with band. Did they have music back then?
Yeah, they did at the finish line.
Wow.
Yeah. They
Yeah,
had
oh,
music.
okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and the big hill about a mile from the finish,
Over the
it's
bridge.
become the national championship
Yeah.
15K race for the US. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
a great
The
place.
entire course is pancake flat until you get to the hard bridge. But
Then you left New Jersey
yeah,
with a change in personal life more than a decade ago. Huh? Oh, okay.
2016. Yeah.
Okay. And have you been running there?
I have been, I've really only gotten back into it the last 2 years, I would say. I came down here with a long history of depression. Coming out of the divorce, it was a very rough time. So it took me a while to get back into it. I was following everything. I was going out and running and walking 3 to 4 times a day, but it was just a coping thing at that.
Yeah.
Uh,
Did you stay in touch with the sport through all those personal challenges?
yeah, primarily through Facebook, things like that. Came down here. I didn't really know anybody. Then I became friends with a few people at the Charlotte running company when I came down here. But most of the time, I really wasn't involved in the scene down here. But now I'm getting into doing the park runs. I'm doing a 5K this Saturday, a mile from my house. Very low expectations. Just gonna go do. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I've gone back in, and I was gonna do the
Well,
California International Marathon this December, but at the end of 2022, I had AFib in my heart. I had first they did the thing where they jumpstart your heart, they put you under, they jumpstart. I had that, and then it came back a month later, and I got the libation or whatever, ablation.
ablation.
Ablation. I had that done, and
Yeah.
my heart has been behaving since then. But they wanted me to do a follow up CAT scan about 3 months ago, and I have calcium buildup in my heart. 100 isn't. 200 is bad. 400 is very bad. I'm at almost 1200.
Wow.
So I
Do you know, is that a genetic thing or is that from exertion? What it
I'm gonna say it's genetics and my diet. My diet
Yeah.
has always sucked, and I did read about it online, and there is some history of distance runners getting that buildup, but I don't know if it's legit or not.
Yeah, there's gonna be a bunch of people listening to this and who've been on here who are saying, "Yeah, I've had ablation. I've I have AFib." It's not uncommon. Yeah.
Yeah. So now I feel like a ticking time bomb. The first few weeks after I found that out, I'm like, am I going to drop dead doing 3 miles? And then my doctor recommended that I probably shouldn't do the marathon. And I said, well, if I don't do the marathon, if I don't run a marathon at a slow pace, can I kill myself for a 5K? And I don't know what the difference is there. If I'm killing myself for a 5K or running 4 hours, 4.5 hours, 5 hours for a marathon, they recommended I don't do the marathon, which I'm fine
Mhm.
with. So take my mind off of that, which is okay.
Putting your mind back on your many years of
Yeah.
taking photos, both when you were selling it and just collecting, do you have any favorite photos?
I have a picture of DiCastella at the championships in 81 from the press trip, coming around a curve. He's there. The pack is in back of him. That's a great shot. I have a great picture from the 2008 marathon trials. That was in November of 2007. Somehow I managed to get a press pass. Actually, through Let's Run. Robert Johnson or Weldon Johnson. I talked to them and they recommended me for a press pass. So I'm on the course right by the finish and I got a couple of great pictures. I got best picture I've taken, a picture of Ryan Hall, Ritz, and Brian Sal at finish with the American flag wrapped around the three of them. Perfect dead on shot. So that was a great shot. And going to that race, I had a great picture of Brian Sell after the race holding the flag over his head. That was November of 2007. Flash forward to the spring of 2008. I'm in a Borders bookstore and I'm looking through magazines. Running Times. I looked through it. I'm like, that's my picture. First, it was like,
Really?
holy shit. And that's cool. And then, holy shit. It turns out they had taken the photograph from my photo hosting website and they apparently got it and used it in their ad without asking me at all.
Wow.
So I eventually got in touch with Brooks and I didn't make a beat really, but I'm like, this isn't cool. What can we do? And they eventually sent me a check for $500,
Very
which was
cool.
fine. But it was like, it's like I opened the magazine. I'm like, holy shit, that's my picture. Shit, that's my picture.
That's great. So can we invite everybody who's a runner on Facebook who wants to
Yeah.
friend you and they can maybe get to see some of these pictures and connect. You're very into the sport. What do you think?
Yeah,
You
absolutely.
well?
No,
Okay,
yeah, no
cool. So
problem.
it's Steve Starr with 2 R's, and
Yeah.
anybody hears this can join up. Let's just jump to random topics, thinking
Yeah.
about the '80 Olympics and the boycott.
It was awful. It was absolutely stupid. 1980 was my first election I voted in. And Jimmy Carter has turned out to be a great human being. As a president, he basically sucked. So even though I'm a hardcore liberal, everything else, my first election, I voted for Reagan. The only time I voted Republican in my life. So yeah, I think the boycott was stupid. And people now don't even know that we boycotted. People say,
Yeah.
who won in 1980? We didn't go. So it was a waste. I think that Benji Durden, he's over it. I think he's moved on. It was stupid. It was wrong. And here's a funny
I
story. I have an ex-friend who I'm friends with. His name is Keith. To this day, he despises Jimmy Carter for the boycott. He's not elite. He's like a 16-minute 5K runner.
hmm,
He lived in Atlanta. He would not take his kids to a school trip to the Jimmy Carter Library because of Jimmy Carter, because of the Olympic boycott. Yeah,
that is passion. That is
that that
passion.
is that's nuts. Yeah, yeah. It's the boycott was
Well,
stupid.
I haven't talked to Craig Virgin
Yeah,
either, and I gotta think he's gotta be just torn up. He was podium bound,
yeah.
as were many other people. I have a friend who was in the decathlon, and he did get to go in '84, and he finished
Okay,
7th in the Olympics at decathlon, but '80
yeah,
was a prime time for him, and he was national champion around
yeah,
there. Yeah,
yeah,
that's just tough.
yeah. I don't think Bill Rogers would have won the Olympic marathon because it was a warm day. And Serpinski was there, probably doped to the gills also. But I think Tony Sandoval might have done very well. Benji, who knows, but I think Tony Sandoval could have done very well at the Olympics. So,
Yeah, anything come to mind that races that you've seen and followed that were total surprise results or moments that you just say, "Wow, that was a great race," or, "What happened there?"
not in a good way. I remember when Almaz Ayaya, I think her name is from Ethiopia, won the 10K in 2016 in Rio, and she ran 29:17. I remember I don't believe this. No, there's something wrong here. This stinks. I was in a bar here in Charlotte with my friend Tim O'Brien, and we're watching the race. I'm like, no, just no. And then Kipruto, same thing. He was a great runner, but he ran an average of 2:01 for his first three marathons. I'm like, if he's clean, it's incredible. My gut feeling is I don't believe it anymore. Which is sad.
What's your opinion on it, or when doping is discovered, either systemic or with what recently happened with a
Yeah,
Russian female runner? They're changing the medals. Do you think all those records, all those results should be changed with any scientific evidence coming out?
they've got the evidence. Why not? It should be changed. Uh, there was documentation about Sierpinski doping in 1976. So yeah, that should be changed. Frank should get a gold medal. Don Cardong should get a bronze. Yeah, if there's documentation, yes, absolutely. There were rumors that I've read about or heard about back in '88 in the Olympics. There were drug tests that mysteriously disappeared, and in '84 as well. Drug tests that were shredded, that were disappeared, whatever. They got Ben Johnson in '88. That race, almost everybody in that race at some point was either busted or accused. And
Yeah.
Flojo is an obvious thing. Flojo, that record, they can't prove it, but yeah, it's BS. I think
Yeah, that's unfortunate
Yeah,
that she died early, but
yeah,
also unfortunate that we can't feel good about it and trust it.
right.
Yeah.
And my opinion, based on nothing, I think Carl Lewis was protected from getting busted. I think Ben Johnson was a scapegoat. I think other people tested positive, and he was chosen. He was Canadian. My opinion. Yeah,
I know your friend Jack Welch is very passionate about where's Don's bronze, and he
yeah,
will continue to campaign for that, and maybe we'll get to see that,
yeah. I hope.
hopefully.
I don't think it'll happen. Hope so.
Yeah. Well,
So
what else do you want to talk about? It's great to get to meet you, Steve, and you're an interesting, fun, and funny guy. And I
yeah,
certainly enjoy that I have started following you and see what you're thinking about and
yeah.
writing about on Facebook.
It's my playground. I'm not quite that insane in person, but that's my playground where I can be a goofball or whatever. So it's fun. So yeah,
It'll be fun. A lot of people in the running world know you. You've met and interacted with a lot of them. So maybe when we publish that, that'll encourage a few more listeners from the elite group that expand I've got connections. I'm friends and have talked to a lot of these people, and one
yeah.
by one, hopefully we'll get them all on here to talk about their version of history and same opinions and
Have you talked
stories.
to Have you talked to Jack Welch yet?
I have not interviewed him. I've chatted a few times. He
Okay.
said he'll do it. I need to grab. Maybe I'll just grab him soon
Yeah.
too.
Yeah. Both Benji and Ron Tab are great sources. They've got a lot
Yeah,
going on. So
yeah. I interviewed Ron Tab, and we talked for hours. And he's okay. Turn the microphone off. I'll tell you this. He has
yeah,
some great stories. There's some other people out in that Colorado area. I ran against Mark Muggleton. He was Division 1. They set the American record on the 4x1 mile Arkansas. But earlier he ran at Edinburgh in Western
yeah.
Pennsylvania, and I ran against him. I tracked him down when I started this podcast, and he was out in Colorado. And another guy I ran against from Slippery Rock. They lived in a place called the Dungeon. They told me the stories of out there, the whole gang of weird Colorado goings on, and Alex Kasich. There's just some funny, great stories of that stuff. That I talked to a lot of people, Rich Castro and
Yes.
these Colorado people, but yeah, I'm just chipping away at everybody.
Probably my favorite runners were first Bill Rogers, obviously. Salazar was my hero in that era. And then he turned out to be one of the worst people on the planet. Disappointing. Yeah. But it's like in that period from 80 to 83, he was it. I had all the Nike
Yeah,
gear. I had the elite gold running Gore-Tex suit that if you ran in temperatures over 40, you sweated like a pig in the suit. But I got all the toys from
yeah.
Nike that Alberto endorsed. And then Paul Radcliffe was a huge hero of mine. Who else? But I ran with Bob Kempton at a running camp one year before he was in the Olympics. I went to a Green Mountain running camp in Vermont, sponsored by Nike, 6 times. One morning, I missed my group to go run with. They have like group A through C or D. I was in like one of the slower groups. I overslept. And the only group that was still there was Group B, I think, led by Bob Kempinen. And we go out to do 3 or 4 miles, and I'm dying my ass off. But I ran with Bob Kempinen before he made the Olympics. That's why he got to the Olympics.
Yeah, sure.
Perfect.
Lucky for him, you slept in that day.
Yeah, absolutely. So now there's lots of other stories. We could do this for hours. Okay. Back to running camp in 1985. Stu Middleman was there. He was an ultra marathoner. He held the American record for 100 miles, several other races. He was a very charismatic guy. One day in the afternoon, all the kids and the adults are going out for a run on the school buses. And I stay back and do a workout with Stu Middleman. And here's this guy who is, at the time, the best American ultra runner out there. We're going from the campus down to a high school track at Linden Institute in Vermont. The only track in the world that has uphill on one side and a downhill on the other. It's at an angle. It's insane. A track. So we're walking from the campus down to the track about 3/4 of a mile. And we get to the track. We run for an hour, 8-minute pace, and walk back up. And we're both in blue Nike shorts, both with white running caps on. And we're coming up the hill back to the campus, and we're singing Darlington County by Bruce. And for some reason, I'll never forget that moment. Oh my God, we're with one of the best ultra runners ever. We're coming up this hill, and we're singing Bruce Springsteen. That was a good memory. So, lots of random stuff.
Yeah, go ahead.
1981, the Legs Mini Marathon, Central Park. Late May of 81, they had the Legs Mini Marathon. Greta Wikes won that a bunch of times. The night before the race, I'm at the finish line. Two things. They put me in charge of balloons over the finish line. Worst balloons ever. Worst decorations they ever had for any race, probably. It was horrible. But the night before the race, I'm in Central Park with 3 or 4 guys with the crew by the trailer, the Red Runners Club trailer at the finish line. And I fall asleep on a cot because we're all staying overnight until the next morning. And I wake up and they wrapped me in duct tape to the cot. Okay, guys, can you let me up now? And they got a kick out of it. And that was the end of that. And then the next day, the race was in the morning. The next night they had a reception at the Rainbow Room at 30 Rock, where they do Saturday Night Live and everything else. And we're upstairs. I'm still in my shoes from that morning. I'm soaking wet, but I'm up there and they're watching the race on, it was either VHS or beta on a little TV. And I'm standing next to Patty Catalano, and she's with Greta and she's running her ass off and she looked exhausted. And I just said to her very innocently, "Were you hurting here a lot because you're working so much harder than Greta?" And she bit my head off for saying that or asking that. She was very moody at that. Flash forward, 2005, give or take, we connected either on Let's Run or on Dystat, and I told her the story from 1981. She bakes me a can full of brownies and mails me brownies to make up for that.
Huh.
So
Wow. Yeah.
I ran into her at the Boston Marathon in 2007, like a year or two later, and she was so excited to meet me, and we hugged and whatever. And I follow her, and we occasionally text back and forth on Instagram. Patty is awesome. Yeah, that was a nice thing.
Yeah, I think, Steve, when you get to see your episode here after it's done, hopefully a lot of your friends and contacts will consider coming on here. Yeah. Like you say, you just reveal some behind the scenes and behind the scene relationships that people would love to hear. And a lot of these people, of course, have published their story, been interviewed many times, but the kind of talk that we get to do here, which is just chatting on the times, I think is really fun.
I love it. Prefontaine was a great runner. He's one of the greatest American runners ever. Once in a while, I hate to say it, people talk about him almost too much. It's like everything on Facebook is about Prefontaine. Sometimes I want to hear about other runners from that era. It's like when you talk about reggae music, the only person they talk about is Bob Marley.
Yeah.
So I know that's sacrilege, but it's
when Pre's name comes up, it pulls all the air out of the room.
absolutely.
Dave Waddle's interview, it's really good because he talks about them rooming together and a little bit about the money thing and Pre's attitude about that. Not so much about the running, but who he was as a person. I found it great. I really enjoyed people like Sid Sink talking about that same era and the success they had.
And before we go, one book that you will never read because Tom Fleming back in the beginning of the 2000s, and he was naming names, everybody about drugs, everything else. He was naming names. And then he died. And his daughter Margot, I imagine, has the transcript for the book, and we'll probably never see it because it named
Ah,
names.
wow.
Many years ago, 5 maybe, on Let'sRun.com, discussion of doping came up, and George Malley, who was a steeplechaser, I believe, who ran some good road
Yeah.
races. I actually printed it out someplace. He was talking about Nike and the doping and Athletics West and everything that went on back then. And there were a lot of people getting injections that were listed as chiropractic sessions, things like
Mhm.
that. So there was a lot of stuff going on back then. Salazar, I think he was on steroids. Probably after New York 1980, moving forward, I think he was probably doping. My opinion. I have a lot of
Yeah.
opinions. So
That's it. That's great to hear. We can include that kind of discussion here.
yeah, yeah. So doping's always been there. That you look back and you see what probably wasn't genuine. You're like, oh well, it's disappointing to a fan. So
Any
yeah,
predictions for the coming U.S. Olympic trials or things you'd like to see?
I'm not sure who's in a lot of the races, but I'm going to be following it. I was in Atlanta for the marathon trials. It was a super weekend. That
Yeah.
was cool. The women's side was a big surprise because Emily Sisson came in second. Other than that, a lot of favorites kind of bombed. So that was
Yeah.
interesting. Yeah, I'm looking forward to the marathons at the Olympics.
I'm interested in the 5K and the 10K's got a couple of these college athletes,
Yeah,
Nico Young.
yeah. I'm not familiar with them that much these days. I haven't followed much
Yeah.
college stuff in a while.
Check out Nico Young. He was part of this high school team that had the Salmon brothers. I'm from Pennsylvania. Gary Martin went under 4 minutes as a high school miler at a dual meet. He was part of this big group that was all going under 4 minutes about 3 years ago, and Aaron Solomon. But on that team were the Young brothers,
Yeah,
including Leo and Nico Young. He ran 8:40, 2 mile in high school. Then he ran a 12:57. He just signed an NIL agreement with Adidas. First big name track college, because all the basketball and football players are getting them. And he just signed one. I don't know the terms of it, but
yeah,
I think that's great, I guess, for a sport. College
yeah.
runners are
I see in Caitlin Toohey, I see Lynn Jennings when she runs. I think she looks like Lynn Jennings when she runs. I think she could possibly get that good. Parker Valby is beautiful to run. She's doing fantastic, but she's fragile. You can't cross train your way to the Olympics. She's done
mhm,
that in college. She's run incredible times, but after college, is that going to work? But you can't
yeah,
be 2 hours on an elliptical and make the finals of the Olympic 5K.
yeah,
I don't
that's
see it, but we'll see what
yeah,
happens. Yeah.
people.
Yeah. It's good to bring back the memories that most people I know don't know any of it, but people like you and people that they appreciate it. So,
Yeah, I've been a fan the whole time. I really had to stop running for a long time. I got a pretty severe injury, but in my head,
yeah,
I'm still the runner. But
yeah,
getting back on the track and running, and I ran the 800 meters and competing, and in our brains, uh, Roger Robinson is in a group of over 80s that get together who still
yeah,
run. That's the criteria. Over 80 and still running. And he said,
yeah,
our motto is the older we get, the faster we ran.
yeah, yeah. And what's funny is like in my head, I'm still the guy who ran 18:14 for a 5K up here.
Mm.
The only thing that has changed is the minutes per mile thing of it.
Yeah.
I'm out there and I'm still doing it. And in my head, I'm still doing what I did when I was 26 in the best shape of my life. But now just the minutes per mile have gotten so much slower. I don't
Yeah.
mind walking here and there. So it's an interesting thing watching the machine get old, but you're still the young guy up here.
Yeah. That's the thing that we all face. I've talked with a lot of people who were elite or near elite, and their transition psychologically to it's over now. I'm past the peak. Also, the competition. Was competition ever a thing for you?
I ran a couple of track races in the late 80s. I ran an all comers meet in Paramus, New Jersey at Bergen Community College. I ran the 5K there, and the guy who won the mile earlier let me win. So I've won exactly one race in my life.
Nice,
No,
great. Did you
I've
get
never been
something
fast.
for that?
Yeah, I've never been fast enough to be competitive, but I did win one race in my life.
Great. I look forward to staying in touch and reading your
Absolutely.
thoughts and opinions as we go forward. And like we said, we'll invite everybody else to find you on Facebook and
Yeah, absolutely.
join the discussion, and friends of friends connect with all these other people.
Absolutely.
Thanks for all your
Fantastic.
time, Steve.
Take care. Bye-bye.
I hope you enjoyed another episode of Running in the 70s. Voices, stories, and memories of athletes who were running in the 70s. Until next time, wherever you are, keep looking forward and don't forget to look back.